only one of you can win the game, period. But we see it as a game of doubles. We're playing the game together. We want to win together. And being on that same side of the net, if I miss the ball, he's got my back.
I wouldn't sacrifice my marriage for anything. For one reason and one reason only. Nothing has brought me as much joy. So I know that money's never going to bring me that kind of joy and all that.
Good morning, guys.
What's up?
What up, Chris?
Lisa's back. Guess who's back?
So
Lisa's
good to
back.
see you.
Nice to see you. So who have you brought with you? Who's this geezer?
I bought the hubby. I bought the hubby this time.
Morning, Tom.
Good morning.
I've watched you loads. I've listened to you loads on your various podcasts, your various appearances on other people's podcasts. Great to have you both here. So let's recap on the story. Tom, seeing as we've not heard from you before on this show, can you give us your potted history, A, as individuals, and B, as a couple, please, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. So the nutshell that'll lead you from a business perspective to where we are: went to film school, thought I would get the 3-picture deal. I did not. This is all before there were cameras on your phone and stuff like that. So I wrote a screenplay, got turned into a feature film. It was a very horrible experience. And I met these two very successful entrepreneurs. They said, you're coming to the world with your hand out. If you want to control the art, you have to control the resources. So come with us and get rich. And I was like, yeah, that sounds amazing. I thought it would take 18 months to build a company and exit and start our own studio. It took 15 years, but it worked. And so very, very early in that journey, I met my now wife. And so we've done this all together. And so we built up Quest Nutrition. That was the one that ended up being successful. Exited that for $1 billion. And we started with that money. We started a studio called Impact Theory. And our goal is to build the next Disney. And no small feat. But yeah, that's the drill.
And where are we so far on the next part of that journey? Lisa?
Yeah, so we're making amazing content. So we have our YouTube channels, but we've also got some storytelling that we're doing behind the scenes for young kids. So I'm currently producing a comic called The Wish Academy, Women of Impact Superheroes. It's Harry Potter meets Gossip Girl. So it's a superhero for school, for kids. But just really excited. That's like the part of the Disney that we're doing, because we were brought up on movies, right? Like Karate Kid, wax on, wax off is the best freaking metaphor for practice. And so me and my husband, we grew up watching these movies, and it gave you the belief that you literally could do anything, being that underdog. And so those are the types of storytelling we really want to do. And I know the crazy man that I married, so when he says, let's build the next Disney, I'm like, all right, let's roll up the sleeves and let's do it.
Is there any irony in that, or is that actually the goal?
No, that really is the goal. And, we can get into why, but the Japanese have a concept for this that they call shonen, which translates as the few years. And the few years that they're referring to are 11 to 15, which in the West we would call the age of imprinting. And it's where kids begin to push away from their parents. They begin to drink deeply of the culture. And in that moment, their brains are hyper malleable. And so what our goal is to introduce them to empowering ideas through story. And it certainly worked that way in my own life. The Empire Strikes Back introduced me to Yoda. Yoda intentionally, I would say, introduced me to the Tao Te Ching, and Taoism changed my life. And so that kind of moment where through a character like Yoda, if you take Yoda's advice, your life will actually be better.
Without question.
So it was really realizing that if you can bypass the logical centers of people's brains and get into narrative and storytelling, you can introduce these ideas that will make their lives better. And
now I could turn left here, but I'm going to turn right. So where I want to turn left, but I'm going to turn right, because I want to turn left and talk about Lao Tzu, and I want to talk about, meaningful stories are only meaningful unless if you intend them not to be, or there is no intention behind an expectation, all those other kind of things. And Alan Watson, virtues and virtuousness and all this kind of stuff, which is, I love all that stuff. That's for off the air. We'll stay with on the air. Impact theory. They do say, don't they? One of my favorite phrases is, there's loads of them. You just came with a great one. Wax on, wax off. Another one is trying to do the right thing is the right thing. We love that on the show as well. But another one of mine is, via personal experience, is the best way to make a small fortune is start with a really big one and lose most of it. So because you have done that now and you do have resources, you don't have to go to people with your hand out. Have you put some checks and balances in place to stop you from overindulging on just wanting this to be so successful that may at some point jump ahead of what is sensible?
Oh, well, this is the great dynamic, I think, between me and Tom. And we've worked together for so long now that we have our own skill sets. And that's really important when you're talking about any partnership, whether it's personal or in business, is having different types of skill sets to bring to the table so you can make, one whole. And so for Tom and I, we really did... He's good at the vision and I'm good at the making sure we actually execute the vision. It's a book, I don't know if you've ever read it, Rocket Fuel. Have you ever read?
It's called Being Married as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. But there's a book called Rocket Fuel where you've got the vision of the big, strong, amazing thing that you look up to, which is the rocket.
Yeah.
But what about the fuel? If without the fuel, the rocket doesn't go anywhere. And like you said, it's like with marriage, right? Where you've got one of you that may be the boisterous one, but the other person actually gets the kids to school, that actually gets the kids fed. And so without the fuel, the relationship becomes nothing. And that's the big thing with me and Tom, is that we are very good at that, at knowing our roles and then knowing what we bring to the table.
All right. So do you have a mission statement for Impact Theory?
We do.
Do you want to share that with us?
Yeah, please. So we want to pull people out of the matrix at scale through story.
That's so good. How long was that before you got it down to 11 words? Or
Not that long, to be honest. Like, we'd really thought about this a lot, and the Matrix is the dominant metaphor of my life in terms of the human condition. So had certainly thought a lot about that. We sat down when we were forming the company, what's going to be the name, all that, and all of it came out in that moment. So it took us a few days maybe to really nail it down, but pretty quickly.
And how does it work at work with you two?
Yeah, so this is interesting, and I'll be curious to see how much is on air and how much is off. But so when we founded the company, we told the attorneys to create the ultimate divorce nightmare. And so the attorney said, one of you
actually
needs
used those words, by the way.
Yeah, no, for real. One of the attorneys said, one of you needs to own 51%, one of you needs to own 49%. And Lisa said, Tom, obviously you're going to work more than me, so you take the 51%. I said, over my dead body. And the reason is that my number one value is my marriage. And if the business fails, I'm okay with that. If I go broke, I'm okay with that. But if I lose my marriage, I'm not okay with that. So I said, I need Lisa to know in her bones that this is an equal partnership, that I see her as my equal partner. And the fact that I work more hours does not mean that I bring more value to the table, to the earlier point about we each have different roles. And so I wanted her to know that in her bones. So we set it up as a 50-50 partnership. And the thing that means to us is we have to be able to navigate the realities of doing that. So for instance, and here's one that's controversial, I'll be interested to see how Lisa responds to this. We sat down and I said, look, the honest answer is if you and I ever collide and we can agree on how to solve a problem, we should debate it out, and you should try to convince me and I should try to convince you with an uplifting spirit where I'm not trying to be right, you're not trying to be right. But if we each think that something is different, we need to stand our ground. But if we cannot convince the other person, we are going to go with my idea 100% of the time. And if you're okay with that, we will have a mechanism by which we move forward. If you're not okay with that and we can actually end up in a stalemate, then we have a problem. And so that one is and I wish people could see Lisa's nodding along. You really have to sit down and have those conversations. And in today's age, it's because my wife prides herself on being very independent, very hardcore, and she is. And so it was having to be honest about what we're each good at and knowing that vision is the thing that I'm good at. And so it isn't because I'm the guy, it's because I happen to be the one that's good at vision. And so if we're colliding and I'm saying, no, this is the one that lines up with the vision more, that she has to be willing to go, okay, word. And likewise, to your early point about if we're going to go broke, it's because of Tom. In no uncertain terms, it will not have been Lisa's problem. And so she's the discipline. And so if we collide there, I need to know to listen to her and go with her idea.
So much in there. I know I'll straight over to you in a second, but so much in there to talk about. Oh, my goodness. Because if it starts sketchy, it gets sketchier.
Right.
You've got to nail it down, haven't you? That's
Yes,
so important. And by the way, second point to what you've just said, with Lisa in charge, you're never going to go broke because she just will not allow that to happen. She may allow you to think that's going to happen, but she will ring fence at least 100 mil, I would imagine. I don't know. There'll be a back backstop somewhere. Right, over to you, Lisa.
Yes, I don't know if I mentioned this last time actually, but I see relationships, it's a game of tennis, and it's up to you to decide if you're playing solos, singles, or doubles. Singles is you're on one side of the net, your partner's on the other side, and you're hitting the ball back and forward. But ultimately, only one of you can win the game, period. But we see it as a game of doubles. We're playing the game together. We want to win together, and being on that same side of the net, if I miss the ball, he's got my back. If he misses the ball, I've got his back. That to us is what partnership is. So whether it's personal or in business, we see it like that. So these agreements we will have ahead of time so that we never find ourselves colliding in that moment.
Okay, what a great answer. I mean, that's absolutely nailed it. Is there a backstop financially for you that he doesn't need to know about?
Yeah, of course.
Is there a figure in your mind?
There is a figure. We've basically discussed how much money can we burn that we're okay with.
Yeah.
And that is to live the life we really want to do. And that is creating impact. So we've poured a lot of our wealth into what we do now, the content.
Okay, I love it. Again, so many questions. So, having made a load of dough, exited one company, which is fine. It's fair enough. Of course it is. That's how things are. You then realise that you could have things that you could never have dreamed of perhaps having. And that's an experience and a ride that you can only know about if you have the opportunity, the good fortune to climb aboard. And even if you're very close to someone, unless it's you will never understand, like anything, whether it's an illness or a marriage or friendship or misfortune or good fortune, whatever that may be. Without being uncomfortably specific, what things did you dip, what kind of pools did you dip your toe into? You thought, oh, and it takes about a year or 2 years to go, we don't need that, we don't need to do that you want to speak to.
I've always had one dream, and that was a big house. So that was the one real sort of indulgence. Beyond that, I don't even really get off on spending money, to be honest.
The great thing is that when you have it, you have these experiences, and then you realize, oh, this doesn't define you. It actually doesn't change your life on the big scale. Obviously, Chris, right? It's like, well, how do you live every day? When you wake up on an average Wednesday, you don't think to yourself, oh my God, look at my bank account. You go, how do I feel today? Do I feel good about myself? Does my self-esteem good?
Well, you do after a while. You don't think that straight away though, do you?
Well, so here's the thing. Tom and I, the day our lives changed, right?
This is a good story. I know the story. Go on.
So we had heard rumours that the money was going to come through.
We heard rumours. We knew exactly what was going on. I'd spent months negotiating this contract.
You did, but
there were no rumours.
Yeah, months. But you never know, right? Until the money hits your account, you actually don't know if it's going to happen or not.
Many a slip between cup and lip,
exactly.
as the Brits say. So
Very
I'm told.
good.
So, and so we're in our garage, we're working out, and Tom's sitting there on his phone, he's pressing refresh, right? Because your bank account says one thing one moment, and then you press refresh and it changes. Oh. And we're pressing refresh. In that moment, our bank account changes, our lives change, we kiss each other, we take a selfie, and then we get up and go to work. Because
so good.
if your mission, if you're so grounded in why you're doing something, so grounded, the money doesn't change that. And then literally he kisses me, he's like, all right, let's get up and go to work. And we went, no one in the office knew.
Maybe it's because it was a joint win, if you like. Do you know, as opposed to...
Yeah, that's part of it. But the real answer is the way that we got wealthy is kind of weird for people that... most people don't understand how money actually works, to be fair. And so we had built equity in the company. So for more than a year, we were worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but we didn't have any money in our bank account. Yeah. And then suddenly you do have the money in your bank account. And we had known even before that, because we had been worth, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years before that, we were worth about $2 million on paper. And I realized, I'm still unhappy. And so money isn't going to change my happiness. So by the time we got real money in our bank account, we already knew that money wasn't going to change how we felt about ourselves. And that is really a big unlock in my life and anybody's life, is to realize that the thing you really care about, you may not have put words to it, but it's how you feel about yourself when you're by yourself. And all the money in the world is not going to change how you feel about yourself. All of your insecurities are going to follow you. So you really, to me, it's about becoming capable of building something that's worth a lot of money. That journey is amazing and will change you and change your perception of yourself and all of that. But the money itself doesn't. And it's why so many people that win the lottery go broke.
Yeah, or go back to so there's that great behavioural analysis, isn't there, about the fact that if you score your happiness as 8 out of 10, and then you win Powerball, for example, this Thursday in America, which is $1.2 billion, then you'll be 10 out of 10 for a while, but then you'll probably go back to being an 8, because you just always go back to what you are as opposed to what you've got, in a way.
Yeah.
Would that be right? Okay, so Mark Zuckerberg. You got Zuckerberg, you got Musk. Let's talk about these two guys, right? So Zuckerberg, he doesn't really come up with Facebook in the first place anyhow, but then he makes a load of money out of Facebook. And then he doesn't really come up with anything else either. And he buys Instagram, and he buys something else. I can't remember what else he bought, and he does okay. And Facebook is worth over $1 trillion, and then he announces Meta, and then certain things happen, and it's now worth 75% less than that. And then you get Elon Musk, who is a serial killer business person who has opened loads and loads and loads of businesses. But if you actually go back and analyze Zuckerberg's success, he has thus far been a one-hit wonder. If you actually look at the nuts and bolts of what's gone on with him, you have had this big hit, right? How do you feel about, again, ring fencing your own truths to yourself? Was that it, or are we really good at this? Do we have more sort of shells in our arsenal, as it were?
Yeah, no, this is the core question of my life. So I feel like Kobe Bryant post Shaq, and can I win another championship? And I think about this a lot. It's actually really
motivating. But you still have
Shaq,
and she's on your left over there.
Yeah, but we haven't proven it, right?
I know.
We had 2 other partners back at Quest, and so it was like that was obviously a magical group. And now that we've gone our separate ways, can we build something that's bigger than that? On our own. Now, we've obviously, with Impact Theory, we've already built something pretty extraordinary. We've got over 500 million views. It's so Quest grew by 57,000% in our first 3 years, but Impact Theory has grown by 42,000% in our first 5 years. So it's like not quite there, but it's it's a home run. So we have a much bigger vision. We're trying to, build something that's bigger. We don't have anywhere near the valuation that we had at Quest. And so we feel like there's a lot still to do on this side, but we do feel like there are things that we understand about business, but I don't consider Impact Theory the victory yet, because we have a very clear vision of what we're trying to build. And until we build that, we just haven't proven it, right? So it is. And to me, quite frankly, it's not about leveraging what I already know. It's about getting good enough to build the next Disney, which I am not currently. And so being honest, you talk in very interesting ways. So being honest with that, about where you're at, what your skill set is, where are you weak, what do you have to shore up to get good enough to push forward? And look, Elon Musk is like my fantasy. Like if I, could snap my fingers or, trap a magic genie and get wishes, to have that kind of mind would be just very extraordinary.
Yeah, but you wouldn't want his life, though.
I don't know. It's he and I have different value systems, so I wouldn't want to have to adhere to his value system.
I bet he'd swap it all to be as happily married as you are.
That's a good question. I don't know that that's true. So I will say this, that I wouldn't sacrifice my marriage for anything, for one reason and one reason only. Nothing has brought me as much joy. So I know that money's never going to bring me that kind of joy and all that. But that feels to me like you just have to be clever about how you structure your internal life, about what you choose to value, and how you reward and punish yourself, which you want to talk about a left turn that you could go down. You very much have to get good at all that.
We need to go out and have a chat. Right, Lisa, we're almost out of time. Say anything you'd like to. How would you like people to engage with this morning's conversation, for example?
Oh, I mean, even just what Tom said, right? Like we built Quest Nutrition and then we started Impact Theory. We've never built a studio before. And, you mentioned earlier, in my book, Radical Confidence, so much of what I talk about in that book is very specifically, you don't know what to do. You're scared. Well, how do you take that first step? It's not about having the confidence. It's about just making, you were saying about skill sets. What skills do I need in order to achieve this? Okay, I don't know what or how to do it, but I'm willing to go out and learn. And that's really what Radical Confidence is about in my book. And if anyone's interested to hear about mine and Tom's, how we first met and how we built Quest, I obviously tell that story in Radical Confidence, the book.
And Tom, Lisa's first interview about this book was on your show. That was so cool. How was that for you?
It was amazing. So the ideas behind impact theory, I was afraid we would never be able to encapsulate tightly enough to be able to hand it to the world. And so radical confidence really was Lisa saying, okay, this is the belief system. This is how you do it. This is what we did. This is how we went from not knowing anything about business to building a very successful business, not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row. And so for her to be able to encapsulate that in a book, one, it let me off the hook. I don't have to do it because she did such an amazing job. And then that is part of what we want to put out into the world, whether it's through a movie or through a book, just to explain to people it's a set of ideas that can take you from scrounging in my couch cushions to find enough change to put gas in my car, which is a real story, to building a $1 billion business. And that she was able to put it into a book for other people to follow and execute in their own lives is really extraordinary.
Great to see you both. Really good to talk to you both together.
Oh, Chris, it's so great to see you. We're going to hang out.
I know. Well, we nearly did, didn't we?
But almost.
We were just too busy living our lives, having fun, weren't we? But if it's meant to happen, it will. There you go. Radical Confidence is out. Lisa Bilyeu in paperback now. No 10 BS, no BS lessons rather, in becoming the hero of your own life. Where can people go to find out more?
Anywhere books are sold.
And what about Impact Theory?
ImpactTheory.com.
Okay, great. Tom, nice to see you.
Awesome. Thanks for having us on.
All the best.